Welcome back. As you guys know, hockey finished up about a week ago, which left Traden in uncharted waters. But Traden's a pretty creative guy and came up with this new topic. Best sports movies. Traden, take it away.
All right. Well, hey, like you said, I'm not talking about hockey, so this is going to be new for me. All right. But I want to talk about sports movies. I mean, I for one love sports movies. I love a good sports movie. And all the sports kind of seem to have their own. I mean, I guess it's subjective, but there's always a great movie, or many great movies for each of the sports. And I think it's always fun to kind of talk about them and reflect on them. So let's start with football. Start from the top. My favorite would probably have to be Remember the Titans. I think it's just a great film, and it interestingly, it really does a great job of kind of showing a dynamic that we're actually kind of dealing with now in terms of the racial inequality thing. So I think that's a very great movie to watch, and it's always a very inspirational film for me. And I had seen it for a while. Like I was one that's like, oh, I've never seen that movie, and everyone was just like, what the heck is wrong with you? And I finally see it. I'm like, okay, now I understand why you guys are all pissed off. So James, our football guy, what's your favorite?
My favorite's Rudy, guys. It's a classic underdog story about some kid who just never gives up and keeps working for his dream. And it's a really good way to look at life, because sometimes life gets you down. Whenever life gets you down, you just got to keep pushing towards it, and eventually it'll pay off. It may not happen when you want it to happen, and it might not happen the way you want it to happen, but it will happen and it will pay off. So just keep grinding away. And I think that's a perfect example of it. And it just kind of adds to the allure of Notre Dame and all the stories that Notre Dame is, to the fact that it's based there. And I mean, like, it's a really good reference point too, especially if you're a football player. All the coaches will talk about Rudy and how you just got to work your ass off for something. And that's why it's my favorite football movie.
Yeah, that's I always love that movie. That's a great movie. What about you, Alex? What do you got?
I really like that. I really like Remember the Titans. That one might be my favorite. And rewatching it now, like, it's pretty poignant for what's going on in the world. It's based in the 60s, I think. A lot of racial issues going on then, obviously a lot of racial issues going on now that we talked about, a couple podcasts ago. I mean, just Denzel,
Yeah.
Denzel Washington. That's really all you need to say.
Yeah, pretty much. Eric, what's your favorite football movie, dude?
Mine would be The Longest Yard. It's like it's a football movie, but it's Adam Sandler. Who doesn't like Adam Sandler? It's the prisoners versus the prison guards. It's kind of a good idea of a movie. And it's been on TV a lot lately. The more I watch it, the more I actually thought it was not that bad of a movie. But some good actors and comedians in it. Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, Joey Diaz, Nick Turturro, a slew of people in that movie. More of like a comedy, but it's got football in it.
Hey, I mean, comedies can still be great movies. We'll be getting to that. And Tyler, rounding it off.
Yo, how about the game plan with The Rock Johnson being the Tooth Fairy? Football player slash Tooth Fairy. No, but I think my favorite football movie is Remember the Titans. I remember watching that movie probably when I was like, middle school, early high school age, and just being it's that classic sports movie that's just, it's so powerful that what sports can do for a person, an individual, a team, a community. I mean, it's just so powerful. I think I cry every time I watch that movie. It's just such a great one. Rudy was my second choice, James. Another one of my top favorite movies, not just sports movies, not football movies, but movies of all time. So that was a really tough choice between those two, but I'm going to go with Remember the Titans as my favorite football movie.
All right. Well, I mean, all the movies that we mentioned, although it seems like Remember the Titans is mostly everyone's favorite. So I'm glad that James and Eric had kind of a little bit of a change of pace there. Let's move over to baseball. Boys, my favorite is by far Sandlot. I would throw in Moneyball there. I really love the film Moneyball, especially now. It just understanding the what happened with that A's team and that general manager and how that whole went about. But at the end of the day, it's the classic Sandlot. It always brings a smile to my face, and there's some nostalgia kind of embed in that film. I mean, it brings us to an age where, we find some big area that we just go play, different sports in. And in this case, it's baseball, and the kids are damn good. And they take on a team that is, all dressed in, nice uniforms and an organized team, and they absolutely just destroy them. And it's just great. There's some hijinks in there, and I think it's just a great film for any fan of any sport. It doesn't even have to be it's not even really focused on the baseball, per se. It just happens to have baseball kind of surrounding it, which I really love. So, Tyler, I'll start with you, since you're the baseball. You and obviously Alex are baseball guys.
Yeah, there are so many good baseball movies. This was the hardest one for you to pick. I mean, Major League, Bull Durham are some classic ones that are never get old. A League of Their Own is a super great movie. Moneyball, I'm surprised, Traden, you like that movie. I think that's a total baseball nerd movie, so I'm really happy that you mentioned that one. I think it's a great one. But yeah, I gotta go with The Sandlot. The Sandlot is my favorite movie of all time, period. Not just sports movie, not just baseball movie. My favorite movie of all time. I can watch that movie every single day and never get tired of it. I mean, so many great scenes in the movie. Like you mentioned, that one scene with the, douchey, team with the fancy uniforms and fancy football field, the trash talking, you bought for apples in the toilet and you like it. All those, crazy. I mean, so many great quotes from that movie. I mean, Smalls. I mean, you're killing me, Smalls. I mean, the great Hambino, Benny the Jet Rodriguez, the Beast. I mean, there's just so many things that I think about with that movie that I quote every day of my life. Every 4th of July comes around, I think of that scene when they're playing baseball under the light of the fireworks. I mean, it's just total nostalgia, total my childhood, total just everything. It came out the year I was born. So, I mean, that movie to me is just a special one for me. So that for baseball and of all time, The Sandlot.
Oh, wow. What about you, Alex?
I mean, I do love The Sandlot, but just to, change it up a little bit, I'm going to go with The Natural. Robert Redford, one of the greatest actors of all time, playing a fictional character named Roy Hobbs. For those of you who hadn't seen it, as a kid, he plays baseball. A tree outside of his house gets struck by lightning, and then he makes a bat out of that tree, and he uses it all, growing up. He gets stabbed by some crazed fan and has to work his way back to the majors. He comes back 13 years later. He pretty much joins the Angels, or just a terrible team that can't win anything, and leads them to the World Series. Hits a home run in his last at bat. The bat breaks. It hits the light tower. The lights go all over the place. Also, just Robert Redford's an amazing actor. If you haven't seen it, it's a little corny. It's a little iffy because he's 43 when it happens. You're like, okay, it's a little unrealistic. And Robert Redford at the time was in his 50s when he was filming it. So you're like, dude, he looks old as fuck. But it is a great baseball movie. There's just the grouchy manager, just oh, fuck this. My team sucks. But yeah, Robert Redford, The Natural, great film.
I'll have to check that one out. James, what you got?
A huge fan of A League of Their Own. If you guys don't know what that is, it was based in World War II. When everybody went to go to fight World War II, it was left no baseball. So what they did was they drafted a bunch of women to play baseball. And I think it's a great movie that broke a lot of gender barriers. It came up in 1992, which is ahead of its time. You don't see, probably in the last century. So starting in the 2000s when you started to see more of the women breaking out, more of the women kind of I can do what you're doing, and I can do it just as good. I'm not worse than you. And I think this came out way before its time, and it showed people that women are equal to us. Just because they're women, they're not inferior at all. It also exemplified a lot of the toxic masculinity that goes on in this country and how it's not a good thing, and alcoholism and whatnot. But it's a good film, not just for baseball purposes, but just for life purposes as well. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Great movie.
And Tom Hanks is one of the best actors to ever live too. So
there's no crying in baseball.
And I said that quote.
Eric, what about you, bud?
Geez, how am I going to follow that up? Well, I'll follow it with another comedy movie. Bad News Bears. Classical Billy Bob Thornton, where he's just that scumbag role like he is in Bad Santa. there happens to be baseball in the movie. He coaches a little league baseball team, and it is funny. There is a lot of baseball scenes in it, but it's not fully revolved around that. It's more of a comedy, but it is a remade classic, adult humor, content, all that. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the comedy side of Bad News Bears.
Okay, well, I haven't seen that one, so what's up, Ty?
Real quick, before we move on, I got to mention one more element that we haven't mentioned yet is Field of Dreams. I think it's an amazing baseball movie, but also just a great movie in general. Even if you hate baseball, watch Field of Dreams. It'll get your emotions going. It's an amazing, a beautiful, artistically well done movie. I think it won an Oscar, was nominated for an Oscar, I believe. I could be wrong about that. We'll get some fact checkers on that one, but it's just a really well written, really great acted movie. So yeah, Field of Dreams, another great baseball movie. I just wanted to throw that one in there, make sure I didn't, get any hate from baseball listeners who were like, "You didn't say Field of Dreams." Field of Dreams.
It looks like it got nominated in 1990, but did not win.
Okay, so nominated for Best Picture. So there you go.
Well, I mean, nominated as a sports movie, it's pretty hard. So yeah, that's a big accomplishment.
There you go.
Well, let's move on. Let's take it to the hoops. Basketball. My favorite is, and there's a few good ones. I'm an Air Bud fan. I mean, that's a classic. But my favorite would have to be Space Jam. I mean, I think Space Jam is just fantastic. It always brings a smile to my face. Much like Sandlot. Had that cartoony, half animated type thing, which is really cool, and how Michael was kind of like interacting with the Looney Tunes was pretty cool. And it was really interesting is hearing about how he kind of did it in the middle, like he did it in the middle of the season or something. Like I saw it during his documentary, he was talking about it, but it's pretty interesting how that kind of whole went down. You kind of got some break from all the craziness that the series or the season was giving him. So we'll start with Eric since he's our basketball dude, kind of. He works for a basketball team. What's your favorite basketball movie?
I'm pretty terrible at the sport of basketball.
Yeah, it's okay. Me too.
I'd have to agree with you probably and say Space Jam is a classic. It's one of those movies like when I saw it a lot as a kid, how Tyler would compare Sandlot. I have to rewatch though. I haven't seen it for a while. I couldn't recite every line like Tyler does. But my other movie that I had, White Men Can't Jump.
That's a good one.
With Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. They're like street ball hustlers, and Woody's on the run because he's got a gambling problem. And it's just a movie where they just kind of swindle people on the court. And of course, in the very end, he gets the alley-oop dunk from Wesley Snipes, who said white men can't jump, and he proves him wrong. But yeah,
spoiler alert.
I'd have to, yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess I should have said spoiler alert. That's a great one.
Yeah.
What about Alex? What you got?
I do love Space Jam. I might go with Hoosiers. Gene Hackman back in the day, the story of a little, Indiana town. I believe, and now, the state of Indiana is known for that. It's kind of their nickname in general. Indiana has turned into a great basketball program. Hoosiers is like an all-time classic basketball movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's amazing. It's definitely kind of hard to watch at some points. There's some pretty touchy subjects that go on in there. But Hoosiers is a great film.
Yeah, it's actually pretty highly rated on IMDb. I noticed that today. James, what do you got?
A big Coach Carter fan. As you guys can tell from all my movies, they're very inspirational, very motivational, very much a life kind of movie. This is a movie about Samuel L. Jackson. It's a true story, by the way. It's not about Samuel L. Jackson, but Samuel L. Jackson is the main actor who goes and coaches a team of gangsters, goons, you could say. He uses his hard-ass mentality, rules, and he essentially becomes a father figure and a mentor for all these young men and leads them on to winning, but then first and foremost on how to be a man and how to be somebody who is a part of society and cares about the world, not just basketball, but also cares about school and grades. It's a really great movie.
Well, we needed someone to be serious with this whole topic, so glad we have you. Tyler.
Yeah, Trayden, you and I are in the same wavelength. We've picked every favorite movie so far. Space Jam is my favorite basketball movie of all time. Just, and I mean, a classic movie. It's funny. It's just great. Michael Jordan, of course, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. I'm also, but as an honorable mention to that, one of my favorite ones as a kid was Like Mike. Was it Little Bow Wow?
Little Bow Wow.
Little Bow Wow gets his hands on a pair of old Michael Jordan sneakers, and all of a sudden gets his powers to play basketball. He's like a 10-year-old kid and like makes the NBA and like starts playing basketball with all these NBA players. Great movie. So I think those two are probably my favorite.
I actually haven't seen that one, so I better go see that.
That's a good one.
All right, we're gonna round it off with my favorite sport, hockey. No surprise, my favorites, and there will be a couple honorable mentions, but my favorite is absolutely Miracle. Miracle is an absolutely amazing film, not just as a hockey movie, but from an American historical perspective as well. That film basically shows the 1980 Olympic team, a bunch of ragtag college kids that were brought together by one coach and led to beat the Soviet Union in the semifinal game of the 1980 Olympics. And that was, it's such an inspiration as a hockey fan, but it's also an inspiration as an American to an extent, because at that time we were in the middle of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and it kind of takes place during that time period. And there was a lot of crazy things happening in the world at that time. And for one night, a group of college kids brought the nation together and brought some inspiration to the nation, where we were in not the greatest point in our history. So I thought that's a pretty incredible movie. And then I have to give my honorable mentions to the original Slapshot. It's great. It's a classic film. And Goon, which is kind of like the new age Slapshot in my words. So we'll start with James.
You guys, I'm gonna lie to you. I haven't seen a lot of hockey movies, but I have seen Goon, and I've seen that one time. And from what I remember, it was pretty funny. I mean, like, the guy gets into a lot of fights, and that's all I got for you.
James, what's great about that film is the hockey is one thing. It's like whatever. It's the locker room culture is exactly how it is in real life. That is a hockey locker room. So it means that movie is a great reflection of what it's like in a hockey locker room.
And that's why I chose that movie.
Eric, what do you got?
I actually also have Goon. The total epitome of the NHL fourth line mutant role, and it's Stifler is the main character. And he's just exactly what you would describe as a goon. He's like a teddy bear with a fistful of steel, and he's a bouncer in the movie. Ends up becoming the goon. I feel like I keep spoiling these movies, so I won't spoil the movie for you if you ever decide to watch. But isn't there like a real actual story
Yes.
of a guy that was like a bouncer at a bar and became a goon in the NHL?
I believe so. I believe
the
that
Ducks, right?
A little bit of a
Is it for the Ducks?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was the Ducks. But yeah, Goon.
Probably did. They're a bunch of goons. Alex, what do you got?
I can't believe this movie has been mentioned yet, but The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
Quack.
Yeah. Quack.
Quack. Quack. I honestly also love Goon. That was going to be my pick, and then you guys kept talking, so I was like, fuck, okay, I'm going to pick something else. Mighty Ducks is great. The hockey in it is pretty terrible to be. It is a kids movie. They are kids, but watching it, it's like if you know anything about hockey, you're like, this is pretty bad. But it's a fun little movie. If you're scrolling through the TV and the Mighty Ducks pops up, no one's ever gonna be like, oh no, I hate that. Like, let's not watch the Mighty Ducks.
That's a classic.
It's a good little hockey film.
Yeah, it definitely is. Tyler, what about you?
Yeah, Miracle again. Trey and you and I were 4 for 4 today. Yeah, one of the greatest like pump up motivational speeches, like this is your moment, go out there and take it, is like that gives me chills every single time.
Everything.
Fun fact, our I think James and Eric, you guys, I don't know if Dr. B, our program director at Chapman, the night before we took our BOC, which is like the certification exam, sent us a link to that video to pump us up for the test. And I thought that was great. But yeah, that speech on its own, I think makes that the best hockey movie ever. Like you mentioned, Trey, like it's just such an amazing true story. I wish I was alive and around to appreciate that moment in real time, but thankfully we had that movie to, you know, let us kind of live in that moment. Goon is also great. That's probably one of my favorites. And then Mighty Ducks too, to kind of round up my top three. That was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. The Flying V, Quack, love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really is great. But to round out my segment, I'm going to go around the horn and ask everyone what their favorite sports movie is overall. It does not have to be any of the 4 major sports. It could just be whatever your favorite sports movie is. I'm going to say Miracle. Rest in peace, Herb Brooks. Kurt Russell, you did a great job depicting him. And yeah, that'll forever be my favorite sports movie. Let's go around the horn, starting with James.
Coach Carter.
Okay. Eric?
Happy Gilmore.
Yes, I
Just the
thought
price
you.
is
I hope
wrong,
you bring
bitch.
that up.
Yeah.
I hope you bring that up, Alex.
Cool Runnings. The
Hey-o.
bobsled
Wow,
team.
you brought that up,
Great movie.
What a
dude! What a
film.
hero right now.
What a film.
Great
It
movie.
really, dude. That guys, you have to give Disney some credit. They
do.
produce the best sports movies.
God damn Disney, man.
And,
I'm gonna go with Air Bud 5, the one with the softball team. No, I'm joking. You're killing me, Smalls. It's The Sandlot, hands down, favorite sports movie of all time.
fair enough. Well, that was a nice change of pace, boys. I hope you enjoyed the segment. But that's it for me this week.
All right, solid segment, Jaden.